I think the way that electronic music's received today is the same as all music is received. You know, there's a different kind of relationship to sound that potentially people have, and that comes down to, I guess, at a really base level, the idea of industrial society. You know, when you walk around in any city in the world and you go down the shopping mall or the high street, whatever the case might be, you walk from one shop to another and you get one blast of high energy techno, and then one might be playing dub, and then one might be playing something else. You're kind of in this succession of different kinds of sounds of music. And even when you walk around environments in a city, you know, you've got the sound of cars, there's the sound of a bell going off, there's an alarm, there's air conditioning vents, all these kinds of things make us listen in a different way, and I think that's reflected in the way that people are engaging with music generally through portable devices, whether it be a mobile phone or iPod, whatever the case might be. And it's interesting to kind of think about the way that people choose to engage with sound now. I mean, the idea of putting in headphones is a very personalised way of listening that maybe is different to those great sort of images from the 70s of people sitting around putting on, or even earlier, 60s, 50s, of people sitting around putting on 7 inches on a little portable record player and listening in a kind of communal thing. There's a very sort of personalised aspect to the way that people listen now, which is only really broken by the whole sort of experience of going to see music in a live context, whether that be a DJ or a band or whatever the case might be.
iPods have changed the music drastically. I mean, you can get your music, you can carry it around with you 24/7, as in the Walkman in your tape, but to download it easily is fantastic. But it is, because of the iPod, I think, and downloading it, I think, is becoming more throwaway music, and it's harder for the artist to say, this is I've made this, I put my energy, I put my feeling and my knowledge into this, my experience into this sort of music, and now people just feel they want to take it away and use it. The lifespan is only a couple of weeks. I mean, especially with the dance music culture, electronic music is becoming more disposable because it's easier for you to make electronic music these days.
I think people are probably, because of the delivery method that Apple has actually put together, I think people might be more bold to actually download 1 or 2 different genres of different styles for curiosity's sake, rather than having to fork out, you know, $20 for an album and then realise, no, that wasn't quite my bag. If anything, it's probably given more freedom to the end user to explore different avenues of electronica that subsequently they'd never be exposed to. If anything, it's probably broadened people's horizons and certainly broadened the market as well. So a lot more individuals can actually benefit from it rather than relying on major labels, I guess.
Technology as an artist, helping us get our music out there, it's been huge. Like, you know, we now have access to our fans, well, to people who listen to us. You know, we can contact them directly, sell them CDs directly, you know, let them know about our gigs. Yeah, it's just opened up. You don't have to, you know, worry about trying to chase a label to get, you know, signed or whatever. If you want to, there's still people out there who do it that way. But I think there's so much you can do now without having to fall back on that.
Yeah, like we just started playing right when MySpace started being quite relevant, and if you post something on MySpace, people would know about it. So that's been really helpful, and it's kind of interesting because we're just about to release our first CD, and up to this point, I know for me, I've felt that I don't want to push us too far. I want us to really know who we are before we would even think about going and contacting a label or thinking about what we want to do beyond just creating what we create and telling our stories. And I mean, the other thing that's really exciting is that if we want to make our own videos, we can, which you can really create your own little world.
The internet and iPods make it great because you can just delete this shit and never hear it again. I create music a lot differently to when I started making music electronically. I think, you know, particularly when it was all samplers and analog keyboards and stuff, it took quite a lot of time just to load all the samples, key map all the samples, and then, you know, you change all the settings because none of my synths had memories, so you had to, you know, you kind of get the sounds according to how it sounds good within the samples, and then it takes you know, you kind of stick with that idea until you've finished it. Whereas these days I've got 20 million tracks all going on at the same time. You know, I'll just sick of that track. You know, I'll go into, you know, I have tracks for different moods. You know, I have so much music there, and I'll just, like, if I'm a bit tired or something, because I constantly do it all the time because I feel guilty if I'm not doing work, doing music stuff. So, like, I'll get home, if I'm a bit worn out or something, I'll open up a pretty slow file and play with that. Get home pretty angsty, I'll bring out some hammer and gabber, and you know, so it's really good these days. You can have just so many projects going, and I just do them according to mood.
The fact that you can open up a laptop, you know, you buy a Macintosh and it comes with GarageBand. I mean, that's an open opportunity to create something, good or not, that wasn't there even sort of 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, you look at computers in the 1990s and you're still working with ideas of sequencing, of MIDI. You know, audio on the desktop was a very difficult proposition in '95, but today there's entire programs completely based around that sort of approach.
Okay, the most commonly chosen technologies by today's musicians, especially people who are starting off, is they'll either start with a computer-based system and they'll add software synthesizers to their music software if their music software hasn't got enough palette for them to begin with. From there, some people are actually quite satisfied with what they're getting out of it, and they think musically in tonality that's their sound, and they enjoy doing that. Some people wish to explore beyond that, and so subsequently they will use more external hardware gear, and that may or may not include, you know, analog equipment. It could be older digital equipment too, because most of the what we deem to be digital from the early 90s, late 80s is, you know, is almost by our definition vintage. So it's up to them to freedom to explore that, and in some instances the cost of a lot of the older digital equipment is next to nothing. So for them to actually don't feel impeded by financial burden, they can then go out and buy cheaper gear, older second-hand gear, and incorporate that in there if they want to. And that's a general scenario, I guess, as to what is probably going on at the moment.
The process I go through in writing a song is different each time I do it, really. Sometimes it will start with it might start from a sequenced loop or something, and you'll build a tune from there. Other times I'll have an entire tune in my head, and then I have to translate what's in my brain into the equipment. The pieces of equipment that I tend to fall back on are more and more the old pieces of equipment I have. I've gone through a stage where I've explored newer technologies and haven't enjoyed the process as much. To me, writing electronic music and producing electronic music is more about me getting some sort of enjoyment out of it, because I'm not doing it for a living. I'm not doing it on a commercial basis. So for me, it's what I can get out of it, and hopefully other people will enjoy the end product, which some people seem to, at least. So for me, it's going back to all that old gear. I've started using the old Korg sequencer that I've had for 20 odd years now, and I still use a 30 odd year old synthesizer, the Moog, and the Juno 106. They're my staples. That's what I've gone back to. Having dabbled in soft synths, soft samplers, that sort of thing, I've come back. I've done an about face.